Pale Blue Eye, which I think was just me and George. Cam, did you manage to watch it?
I didn't get around to it. I'll watch it.
So
Yeah,
me and George
I'll
had like
check it.
different opinions, and so far, a lot of people do. I think it's sitting at like I want to say like a 6.5 IMDb.
Yeah, I think it bumped up to a 3.1 on
3.1.
Letterboxd. Yeah.
Yeah, so like just like low threes. I mean, I'll go over the actual synopsis first. So, a seasoned detective investigates a series of murders at the U.S. Military Academy in West Point in 1830s, assisted in his investigation by an intelligent and eager young cadet named Edgar Allan Poe. If you're a fan of literature, you would have heard his name before. I'm not, so when I go into this, I'll come in from that angle. And he obviously went on to be one of the America's most influential authors and the originator of the detective genre. Pretty good cast, Christian Bale's in it. Dudley, whose name I forget, Harry Melling, that's the one. Gillian Anderson, Robert Duvall, Timothy Spall, Toby Jones, loads of good guys. I'll pass over to George first because he definitely liked it more than I did. If you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised when I came out of this movie because the reviews have been very mixed. A lot of my mutuals are giving it 3.5 out of or 4 out of 5 stars. A lot of them are giving it 2.5, 2 out of 5 stars. So the reviews have been all over the place, so I didn't really know what to expect. But Christian Bale is my favorite actor, so I'm going to watch anything he's in, regardless of the reviews. But yeah, I just came out of it like really pleasantly surprised. It was a very, tight, claustrophobic feeling detective film. I typically don't love that era of America in film. It typically bores me. And I will say that this movie clocks in at 2 hours and 10 minutes, which is a bit long. It does drag at times. I thought this screenplay was a really good opportunity for Christian Bale and Harry Melling to just act their asses off, and that's exactly what they did. If it wasn't for their performance, I don't think I would have been as invested in this film as I was. And then I also said this movie, takes a turn. This isn't really a spoiler, but like the murder in question is solved and there's still 40 minutes of the movie left. So I was like, okay, we're going somewhere. And I really liked where the movie went. Seth actually texted me saying, the ending's either gonna turn you off or turn you on, and it turned me on. I really liked where this film went because the first 70% of this movie, it was a very cut and dry, straightforward detective murder mystery that we've seen it 100 times. We're going to see it 100 times more, and I like that this movie just took this risk by completely turning on its head in that last 30 to 40 minutes. I also just love, and Seth and I were literally just talking about this before we started recording this podcast, it has a very Tim Burton feel to it. It's very foggy. It's very atmospheric and eerie. I made the comparison in my TikTok video that it's like, imagine if Sleepy Hollow wasn't quirky. Imagine if it wasn't almost geared towards a comedy. Imagine if Sleepy Hollow, the vibes of that movie were just put in a very serious drama. That's what the Pale Blue Eye gives you. And I know Tim Burton's, aesthetic, is hit or miss depending on who you're talking to. It's very hit for me. So yeah, I thought it was good. It dragged at times, but it's 2 incredible performances and a story that, decently compelled me, especially towards the end of it.
Okay, cool. Do you 3.5? Did you say?
I give it 3.5.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a little bit different. I didn't hate it. I give it 2.5. It's a weird one. I think first of all, Harry Melling was definitely the standout for me. I think that was the same for you.
He was great.
It's
It's unreal watching and Christian Bale was fantastic. This is no knock to Christian Bale, but when you're in a movie with Christian Bale and Christian Bale isn't the best actor,
it's an accomplishment.
You've done something very well.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was definitely the standout for me. He really surprised me. A lot of people who know, Edgar Allan Poe, they said that he fit, him really well anyway. So that went down well with a lot of people. I think, first of all, the production design was great. There was clearly a lot of money into this film. It had the Tim Burton aesthetic, which will work for some, doesn't work for others. Tim Burton's a bit on and off for me. He can be really good. He can't be really good. Obviously, it's not Tim Burton film, but it has that kind of feel. And I think George's comparison, with the Sleepy Hollow, is as accurate because I think it's very reminiscent, just obviously a lot more comedic and quirky in a Sleepy Hollow way. Christian Bale was also very good, and like George said, it's a massive accomplishment to overshine Christian Bale on a set because he is, always the guy. Similar to other films he's done this year, like obviously Amsterdam, he was, the obvious standout there, and how many good actors were there in that? he was the obvious guy who was just overtaken over. I just found it quite overly long. I think this film could have been condensed. Like the last sort of 40 minutes were finding out, I won't spoilers, but what actually happened in the mystery. I think that could have been condensed down to honestly like a 10-minute conversation with Christian Bale's character and Harry Mellon's character. I found it a little bit uninspired. I don't feel like anyone was really there for me apart from Harry Mellon and Christian Bale. Like I think a lot of the performances were quite theatrical, which again is a preference whether you like it or not. Like Gillian Anderson's performance, I didn't particularly love. I think she was a bit theatrical for me. I think it pretty monotone. Like I found it quite boring for most of the time. I will say that the last 30 minutes, kind of like the reveal of the mystery, like it will work for you. It will. I liked the ambition. I liked the way they didn't just go down like a boring route of what everyone expected to happen. I didn't expect it, so they got me there. It just didn't particularly work for me. I just think there was a lot going on in this film. I think it was quite hard to follow all the time. I found it a little bit boring. But I will say that the costume design, especially, and the production design, like was really, really good, and I can understand why people like this a lot. But for me, it was just okay. I honestly think if this had been like 25 minutes less, it probably would have been like a 3 for me. I just think there was so much of it they could have cut out, to be honest. Like it did. I had this issue like where it was definitely not as bad as Amsterdam. I enjoyed it more than Amsterdam. But I just think these are kind of murder mystery things. If you're not, Knives Out, for example, they don't need to be 2 hours plus the majority of them. Especially when like Knives Out, there's so many characters you can go into and stuff like that. In this, there's not really. Most of the characters for me were quite boring. So what I would say is, I didn't mind it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I give it a 2.5 out of 5. It's most people seem to be about that range, don't they? Like I've not seen many people give it like a half a star or a 1, but I've not seen many people give it like a 4.5 or a 5. It's mostly around the middle. So I'd give it a watch anyway. George, have you got anything else to say? I don't think we need to go into spoilers with this one.
No, I don't think we need to go into spoilers. Just one thing to like your acting point, because I do agree with you there. I don't think anyone else really like stood out besides Christian and Harry, but I also don't think the screenplay was geared towards that. Like
No.
They were the only two that like required like genuine acting chops, especially that like final conversation they have talking back and forth to one another. I thought that was just super simple. They're literally just in a living room chatting back and forth, and I was like, "Fuck, they are so good at acting. It's unbelievable."
Yeah.
But you are absolutely correct on the runtime. It did not need to be 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I think that's what's turning a lot of people off because it does take an hour and 40 minutes to get to like solving the murder or solving like what you think is the
Especially
solution.
like after everyone watched Amsterdam, another mystery with Christian Bale as the lead, and that was overly long as well. Amsterdam was probably what, like 2 hours 15, something like that.
Yeah, Amsterdam was a bit
If
runny
they watched that, they'll look at this and be like, another murder mystery, Christian Bale,
Yeah.
Netflix original. It's just too long. I just don't
Yeah.
think we need to have film. Every film doesn't need to be 2 hours plus. We can still have. I'm not saying this film could have been like an hour 20, but maybe like an hour 45, an hour 50, that sort of time.
I can understand the decision to make it 2 hours and 10 minutes, especially if they like, because they did commit to that ending. They did say, okay, we are gonna, turn this movie around completely for this viewer. So we want to get these guys, anyone watching this movie, as invested into this murder mystery as possible, because we want them to truly think that like when we solve it, it's solved. Like they've racked up all of this evidence. They've taken all this time to dissect every character and every like motive of people that they're investigating, so that when that and I'm trying to like avoid spoilers as much as possible. Like when that final like, oh, this is what actually happened comes, it's gonna hit you as like hard as it hit me, because it truly like I didn't see that coming at all. I didn't see that
I didn't.
like at all. Like once I saw 40 minutes on the clock left after they had solved the murder, I was like, okay, something's gonna happen. Like there's no way they're gonna drag out the ending of this movie 40 minutes. Like something's gonna happen. And that's where I kind of like perked up. I was like, all right, now I'm locked in. Like what's about to happen? And that's what saved the movie. Because I did text you. I was like, this movie is gearing towards a 3 out of 5. It was just super middle of the pack. It did bore me a little bit in the beginning. I think there was a lot of dead weight. After like the first half hour of introductions of these characters, there was just a lot going on that I didn't care for. And then the ending like kind of saved my experience, because I genuinely did love where they took this movie.
Interesting. Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So 2.5 for me, 3.5. Tyler and Cam. Cam, you're gonna get a chance to watch it next week, or?
Yeah,
I'll watch it this week too.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
so
see
you
when,
can
but I'll watch
give
it.
your input on next week, whatever. That's fine.